a lot of times when you're out in nature, it can be unpleasant. And sometimes I think, do I actually like nature? But I think what kind of prevails over that is the sense that I'm at peace. And it can be scary at times, just kind of wandering around in the woods alone. But I definitely enjoy it. I think it's very peaceful. So right now we're looking at the Lumberland Creek Salt Marsh here in the Great Bay Area. So a salt marsh, for anyone who doesn't know, is basically a coastal wetland that's flooded by salt water. It's an extremely interesting and unique ecosystem, and a lot of species thrive in it. So I'm a seasonal land steward with the Nature Conservancy. So basically what that means is I go to the 32 different preserves that TNC has in this state, and in this position I do a lot of ecological conservation and restoration. So stewardship basically encompasses all aspects of working on the preserves, from managing invasive species on the preserves to doing monitoring to see what different plant and vegetation life is like on the preserves, to working on the trail system so we can make sure that people are still enjoying the nature at the preserve. So it kind of encompasses all of that. Okay. So this one has some remnants of a nest in it. I'm gonna guess that this nest is a bluebird because it's a lot smaller and neater. It doesn't take up the whole nest. Hopefully we can see some other kind of bird's nest because they all look really, really different, which is really interesting. Once you start to learn the plants and animals that are around you, you become so much more aware of them. And it's not just a tree, it's a red oak tree. It's not just a squirrel, it's an eastern red squirrel. Like, you know exactly what they are. Something that I heard a colleague say once was that you will always feel at home if you can learn to recognize the species around you. So my mom inspired me to start to love nature, but the moment I realized I really wanted to go into this field was actually because of my dad. My dad is randomly really obsessed with California condors. He's not a bird person, he just really loves that specific bird. Maybe he related it to the Andean condor. But I don't know, maybe that was his way of feeling at home here, because here was a bird that vaguely resembles one that he might have known. When I was younger, at least, I really didn't have much of a relationship with my Latina heritage. But as I grew older, I began to kind of ask more questions about my heritage, and I wanted to connect more with that. So when I was in high school, I started visiting family in Ecuador over the summers. And while I was there, I took Spanish classes and I tried to learn Spanish, so I was able to learn a bit more so I could connect with my family there and speak with my relatives who only speak Spanish. But being able to go to outdoor spaces while I was in Ecuador was a way to connect with people that didn't necessarily require speaking, because you can be outdoors and just enjoy it with people and bond with them by just being there. You don't necessarily have to talk to them. So I think that was really special to me, and that kind of helped me to love being outdoors. And that definitely opened my eyes a bit as to the possibilities of working in environmental science. Being a mixed ethnicity child, I definitely still struggle with my identity a lot, and just feeling like I'm not Latina enough and not white enough at the same time. But I think being able to visit the places that my family was from in Guayaquil, Ecuador, has definitely helped me connect with that side of my heritage a lot more. That's an example of one seed that never got released, but it has this fluff. So the milkweed seeds basically use this fluff to kind of float in the wind, and they get dispersed all over the place. So it's a really, really cool survival mechanism. And the milkweed plant is super, super important because it is the host plant of the monarch butterfly. So monarchs will only lay their eggs on milkweed plants. So it's really, really important
to kind of preserve these because they definitely provide habitat for the monarch butterfly, which is a threatened species. So it's really, really cool that we have a ton of those plants here in the salt marsh.
I think on one hand, the way that we talk about science is oftentimes not in a way that is very understandable to the general population. Writing academic papers, one, they're often in English and not available in other languages, and two, they're not easy for someone who might have English as a second language to understand, because they're not written in a way that's meant for the general public to understand. And so I think continuing to find ways to communicate science in a way that is more easily understandable to everyone is really, really important, and a really important next step for people in academia to take.
So we have another nest in here. So I'm guessing this is a house sparrow. You can kind of tell because their nests are usually really, really messy. And this one is kind of all over the place. Sometimes they fill the box, and this one is only about halfway up, so I'm not totally sure, but that's my best guess.
So a lot of different people can come together and enjoy nature together, and so it really provides a good way for people to connect. And again, in ways that don't really require being able to speak to each other. You can be in a park and look at a really cool bird, and someone next to you is also looking at that bird, and you're kind of sharing a moment without even really knowing each other or talking to each other, which I think is really, really powerful.